Hey everybody, Mr. LaRoche here. Today we're going to do a little lesson on finding the absolute location of a place. Location being one of the 5 themes of geography, and absolute location being one of the aspects of finding the actual location of a place on a map. Absolute meaning it never changes, it's always the same set of coordinates, which I'm going to explain what coordinates are. And to do that, I'm going to show you this grid that I have set up here. Just imagine a map of the world behind here. But right now we're just going to look at how we can find the absolute location of a country or of a place on the map. And I'm going to show you using this little grid system here. Okay, so as you probably remember, the imaginary line that divides the Earth into a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere is called the equator. Right? It's a line of latitude, and it's found at 0 degrees latitude, right? So that's our main line here, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. The line that runs down the center of a map, and it is also imaginary, and it divides the world into the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere, and that is called the prime meridian, and it's found also at 0 degrees longitude. So we have longitude, latitude. These are our main points starting at 0. Now, looking at the equator at 0 degrees, if you go north or south, you'll also find other lines of latitude going all around the globe. Imaginary, of course. Humans just invented them to help us locate and how to get around the world. And so looking at this first line of latitude above north of the equator, we're going to call this line of latitude 15 degrees because from 0 to this line, that's 15 degrees in latitude that we're going up. If you go up another 15 degrees, we're going to call that 30 degrees. 30 degrees north because it's north of the equator. If you go up another 15 degrees, do the math, you've got yourself 45 degrees north. So this line of latitude is called 45 degrees, and so on. If you go south of the equator, you're going to start at 0, and again, you're going to go by 15 degrees. So this would be called, this line of latitude is called 15 degrees south, because it's a line south of the equator. Go another 15 degrees, we'll call that 30 degrees south. Go another 15, and we call it 45 degrees south. Okay, so these are the names of our lines of latitude. Let's look at the prime meridian up here and find out the names of our lines of longitude. So we have 0 degrees here. If we go east of the prime meridian, in this case we'll go by 15 degrees. It's not always 15. If you look at a map, sometimes you might see a different number. So this line would be called 15 degrees east because it's east of the prime meridian. Go another 15 degrees, that will be 30 degrees east, another 15, 45 degrees east, and so on. Now let's go into the western hemisphere. So this first line that is west of the prime meridian, what do you think you call it? Try to do it in your head. You can pause the video. It would be called 15 degrees west. Go another 15 degrees, we have 30 degrees west. Another 15, 45 degrees west. Okay? So now let's try to find an absolute location of a green dot. So I'm going to draw a green dot right here on this intersection. It's the point where 2 lines cross over each other. This intersection right here. How can we find the coordinates for this point? Well, let's start at the equator. Always start at the equator when you find the absolute location of a place. We're at 0 degrees. We can see this green dot is on the 15 degree latitude point. So we know that this green dot coordinates starts with 15 degrees north. I write N for north. Right, so this point is 15 degrees north of the equator. Now let's find the line of longitude. We're starting at the prime meridian and we're going east. We're going east 15 degrees, 30 degrees. Okay, so this point is 30 degrees What? East or west? East. All right, so these are my coordinates for this point right here, 15 degrees north, 30 degrees east. Let's go down to this intersection of latitude, longitude. Now, if you want to pause and try to do it yourself, you can, then we'll come back. All right, and we're back. Again, always start at the equator, 0 degrees, and we're going to go south. So we're going to go south 15 degrees, 30 degrees. Okay, again, here we are. This point would be 30 degrees south. That's the first part of the coordinate. Now let's find the line of longitude that runs through it. If we start at the prime meridian, we go 15 degrees west and 30 degrees west. So we see that this point is 30 degrees west. So those are my coordinates for that point. One more time, a little trickier. Let's look at a point right here. Maybe it's not on the line, right? Maybe it's right in the middle. So again, pause it if you want to do it yourself, and then we'll check. So start at the equator, 0 degrees. We're going to go 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees is a little too much, right? So it's somewhere between 30 and 45. So we're going to have to estimate here, right? So I'm going to say it looks right in between. So it will probably be about 38 degrees north because it's north of the equator. And then starting here at the prime meridian, we go 15 degrees west. 30 degrees west is too much, so it's somewhere in between here. Let's call it 22 degrees west. So those are my coordinates for there. 20 degrees, 30 degrees north, 20 degrees west. Let's try it on a map now, and then you're going to do a little puzzle activity where you find your own coordinates on the planet. All right, everyone, so here we are with our map, and you can see here the prime meridian, it says, 0 degrees, running down the center, dividing the world into eastern hemisphere and western. Then we have the equator right here at 0 degrees, dividing the world into northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. A little fun fact, the equator runs right through Ecuador. So if you see the connection there, now it should make sense. Great, so you see here we have our degrees, longitude, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45. It's going by 15 degree increments. And you see here are the lines of longitude. And also when you go east of the prime meridian, the same, just as we saw in our little grid that I showed you. With the equator, the lines of latitude, you can see the degrees here on the side, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45, and the lines running east and west. Okay, so we're going to try to identify some countries. So let's do 30 degrees north, 105 degrees west. Can you follow these coordinates to find the country? If you want to try it on your own, pause it and then come back and I'll show you. Okay, so again, starting at the equator at 0 degrees, it's asking us to go 30 degrees north. So we know 15 degrees north, 30 degrees north. So we know our location is somewhere on this line of latitude. Then it's telling us 105 degrees west. Okay, so starting at the prime meridian, we know we need to go west 105 degrees. So we're looking at, okay, west, 105 is right here. So let's follow this line down to where it meets 30 degrees north right here. So if you found Mexico, you would be correct. That is the absolute location of Mexico, and these are the coordinates. Let's try this one. Pause it, see if you can find it on your own. Okay, so 45 degrees north of the equator. Let's start at 0. Let's go north of the equator, 45 degrees right here. So we know it's on this line. Then it's telling us 105 degrees east of the prime meridian. So I'm going down to find 105. Here's 105. I'm going to follow it down to where it meets 45. You can also see the degrees over here on this side for latitude. So 105 down, this is 45. So if you said Mongolia was the point, you are correct. Let's try one more. 70 degrees south of the equator, 100 degrees east of the prime meridian. So starting at the equator, we go 70 degrees south this time. Here's 30, 45, 60. In fact, I don't see 70, but I see 66, so I know it's a little bit further than 66. And we're going to go east of the prime meridian to about 100 degrees. So let's looking at these numbers down here. 100 degrees must, okay, so I see 90 and 105. 100 must be in between those two. So we're looking at about this area here is where the point is. So if you said Antarctica, the continent of Antarctica, you are correct.